Good morning, and welcome to another installment of Casey's Motivational Movement, where today I want to talk about your life metaphor. Life metaphor. And again, this is something that we've heard before, but maybe not so much put the two together. And I'll briefly describe what a life metaphor is. And by doing so, let me start with the word metaphor. A metaphor is no more than talking about one thing as if it were another. And again, that's talking about one thing as if it were another. And when you add the word life to it, it simply states how one person views life, how one person responds to life, how they go through their life, how they live their life. Your life metaphor. You're speaking about your life as if it were something else. Now, we've all heard of life metaphor, and I'll give you an example of a time we've heard it. Have you ever watched the movie Forrest Gump? When Forrest's mom sits him down and said, "Forrest, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get." This was a life metaphor, a great life metaphor. But this life metaphor is one of those that basically describes how this person lives life. And I'll describe where it comes from. Once upon a time, as now, they have boxes with chocolates in them. Several chocolates, but the only thing you see is the outside chocolate. Now, it wasn't until you bit into that chocolate that you were able to see what was inside it. So life was like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're gonna get. But now you kind of have those chocolates labeled, so you kind of know what you're gonna bite into. But once upon a time, that was the case. You never knew what you were gonna get. So life metaphor is, life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're gonna get. Now, throughout this segment, I would like to share a couple of life metaphors, and you can maybe adopt the one that you like the best. And I've had several throughout my life, and I'm kind of in the middle of two now, and I'll get to those here in a little bit. But several life metaphors I've heard over the years is one such as, life is like a roller coaster. Now, the person who adopts this as their life metaphor maybe looks back and sees life as a bunch of ups and downs, just like a roller coaster. Another I've heard is, life is like an elevator. There's lots of ups and downs, and there's always someone pushing your buttons. Life is like an elevator. There's lots of ups and downs, and people are always pushing your buttons. Now, a person who adopts this life metaphor, imagine how they see life, how life looks through their eyes, where it's just like a roller coaster with a bunch of ups and downs, but they threw in another specific, that people are always pushing your buttons. So a person who would adopt this life metaphor is maybe someone who, on several occasions, have had their buttons pushed by different people. One of the metaphors I've had in the past in my life was, life is a party, or life is like a party. And basically that's how I live my life. I live my life as if life was one big party. One party after the next. Day to day, all the parties look the same and eventually would run together. Life is like a party. Now, another metaphor that I've since adopted since my party days and kind of got into the next phase of my life where I'm moving ahead, I'm motivating myself, I'm inspiring myself, looking for inspiration, and building myself to be the better of the best. So one of the life metaphors that I've adopted since is, life is a journey. And this is a very powerful life metaphor. Life is a journey. Now, life takes you many places, and like a journey, along the way is when you learn the lessons. So that's one of my favorite. Life is a journey. One of my favorite metaphors. Now, the one I'm kind of working on now, I'm kind of more so leaning toward, and I've heard it more so recently, so it's not a new concept, but it's a concept that I do love. And that new metaphor says, life is the dash. Life is the dash. And I'm starting to love this one more and more, and I'll explain where it comes from. When we pass this earth, we're all going to have, most of us anyway, we're going to have headstones. Now, on our headstones, there's going to be two specific dates. One of those dates will be the day we were born. The other date will be the day we passed this earth. And in between those two dates, we'll see a little dash. That's what I'm talking about. Life is the dash. Now, there's plenty of things going on here in the dash. There's plenty of lessons to be learned, just like in the journey. There's plenty of parties, throughout this life, throughout this dash. There's plenty of things that we need to recognize. The very first thing that I need to point out that's very important within the dash, make no mistake about it. This is no ordinary race. This is not one of those races that you want to rush to the end. But yet, take your time and learn the lessons, learn the valuable lessons throughout life. And as you learn, you build on each process and become better and better. So again, in the dash, it's not about competition, but it is about getting better. It's not about competing against someone else, but rather being better than you were yesterday in the dash. Now, in the dash, there's several onlookers. There's some people that's going to cheer us on throughout our race, throughout that dash. There's going to be people that's going to cheer you on as well. Make no mistake about it. There will be people who are against you propelling. They're against you moving forward, that are against you achieving the greatness that's already in you. There will be some people, they call them haters, but they say haters will make you greater later. So take on the haters as well as take on those people who will cheer you on, but take them all in stride. There's a guy named Dr. Miles Monroe who talks about the wealthiest place in the world. And I believe he had life metaphor, life is the dash, in mind. And he said this, he talks about the wealthiest place in the world. And he says the wealthiest place in the world is not in Africa, it's not in Saudi Arabia, in the sands of Saudi Arabia, it's not in the gold mines, but in a place very close to you. He said the wealthiest place in the world is the cemetery. And that's because throughout life, throughout this dash, people leave things behind. I love as Les Brown says, he said, live full, but die empty. See, we have things in us that we have to give to the world throughout this dash. We have to give of ourselves because in you is a cure for AIDS. In you is a song that will heal the world. In you is a good message, a word that someone needs to hear, that someone is not going to be able to survive this day until they hear from you. So live full, die empty. That's why I love the dash so much. The dash is so very important, and I think it's something that someone needs to look into. And when adopting life's metaphors, I'm not saying one is better than the other, but you have to decide which one works for you. So I want you to challenge you to sit back, and I want you to think about what life means to you. What does life mean to you? What is life? When you describe life and say life is like, how will you finish that sentence? Life is like, describe life. What is life to you? That is your life's metaphor. And as you will see, that is exactly how you will live out your life. So if you're living a life that you're not wanting to live, if you're in the dash and you're in the prime of your life, look for a life metaphor that works for you. Look for a life metaphor that will challenge your views on life, on who you are and who you are to become. And I guarantee you, as you begin to challenge yourself on your life metaphor, your life will begin to change, as will your life metaphor. So this is very important. So with that, I'll leave you with this challenge. Again, I want you to go out and seek out a great life metaphor, something that will work for you. Again, we have things like life is a party. Life is like a roller coaster. Life is like an elevator. Someone's always ups and downs, but there's someone always pushing your buttons. Life is a journey. Or, one of my newest favorite, life is the dash. Until next time, I want you to stay motivated. And again, I want you to go be so motivated that you go out and motivate and inspire someone else to greatness. Until next time, thank you and God bless.